Hey everybody, this is Grandmaster Ben Feingold here with our lecture on a great player of the current. He's great in the ocean. Alireza Firouzja. Firouzja is only 18 years old, and he's from Iran, and he currently plays for France. And we want to thank Zane for sponsoring the lecture, although I wanted to thank Billy Zane, but I was told I have to thank Zane. So I guess Billy Zane didn't sponsor me. But still, he's the prettiest looking man I ever saw. So Alireza Firouzja has been known for quite a long time, even though he's only 18 years old. He had some issues with Iran, the chess federation, and he decided to move to France and play for them. For a while, he wasn't playing for anybody. He was playing for FIDE, but okay, now he plays for France. He was Iranian champion at age 12, and I don't mean the junior champion. I mean the champion. And Iran is actually a very strong country. If you go to the World Youth and World Cadet, the Iranian kids are fighting for first. And he became a grandmaster at age 14. He got to 2,700 FIDE when he was 16. Very similar to trying to learn. Very similar. And at the 2019 World Rapid Championship, he came in second. And he was only 16 at the time. In November 2021, he won the Grand Swiss and an individual gold in the European team. By winning the Grand Swiss, he's seeded into the candidates, which will take place in a few months, I guess. And he came third in the recently finished World Blitz Championship. He left Iranian Chess Federation 2019. It's Spencer. All right. Not sure which Spencer, but it's somebody. Yeah. Make sure you're muted. Unless you're Spencer, then you can say stuff. He started playing at the age of 8. And if you go to Firouzja's Twitch page, usually his brother is the one streaming. And I can't pronounce his brother's name, so he must be really good. No, it's Mohammad Reza, so obviously I can pronounce it. Also playing chess, but not as good as Alireza. And you can read about him on Wikipedia. Many people are saying that he will be the world champion soon. And even though he's only 18, his Wikipedia page is pretty long, because my Wikipedia page is 1/10 the size, or maybe 1/20th. The reason people like Alireza is not because he's young. That's just one of the reasons. The main reason they like Alireza is he plays like a maniac, and he also plays a lot of blitz and bullet on the internet. So he's popular with the fans on the internet. And in slow chess currently, he's the only player in the world other than Magnus Carlsen who's north of 2,800. So he's the second highest rated player in the world, and he's 18. So Magnus Carlsen, in one of his crazier moments, said, in the next World Chess Championship, I'm only going to play Alireza. Otherwise, I won't play. And then he was offered a job by Fox News, and Magnus said, no, thanks, I have COVID. And they said, you'll fit right in. Speaking of that, it's not related to our lecture too much, but Magnus does have COVID. And I don't want to spread rumors, okay? So don't blame me, but it's the case that he was around the Queen of England about 2 weeks ago. So take it for what it, I don't know. Okay. I mean, the part about him having COVID was true. You can tell that Magnus has COVID by looking at the games he's playing now. That'll tell you. Okay, now let's do some more different screen sharing. We're going to share, chess base, I guess. Yeah, there we go. Not sure if that worked, but, what are you going to do? All right, can you guys all see chess base now? Hooray. Anybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and what move did I just make?
E4?
Yeah. How come nobody answers and the answers always have a 10-second delay? What's going on here?
Well, because we have to press the unmute button every time.
Ah, okay.
That's why.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can you guys all see chess base now? Hooray. Anybody? Yeah. Okay. And what move did I just make?
Well, because we have to press the unmute button every time.
Okay, so if you said e4, you're correct. Okay, so the first game was played in 2017, and this is 2022, and Firouzja's 18 now. So Firouzja was either 13 or 14, depending on what time of year it was. So he wasn't that old when he played this game. He's playing the experienced German Grandmaster Matthias Blübaum. And as you can see, although you probably can't see because it's too small, Firouzja's FIDE rating this game was 2465. And my FIDE rating is about 2465. So that shows you in 4 or 5 years, he went from my strength to second in the world. Pretty good. Now, this is an amazing game played by such a young person, and it really shows you the style that Firouzja has when he's playing. And this is why I like Firouzja, and this is why I liked MVL about 10 years ago. I was like, MVL. I was mispronouncing MVP, but that happens. I really liked MVL because MVL played for a win with white and black, and he played very uncompromising chess. And that's what Firouzja reminds me of. Maybe that's why Firouzja moved to France. Who knows? Okay, so Firouzja plays e4. He plays everything now. Okay, Caro-Kann is funny because Firouzja plays the Caro-Kann with black, which we'll see later in the lecture. Okay, and Firouzja plays the advanced variation, which is the most uncompromising, and also that's what MVL plays. So somehow MVL went from the most uncompromising top 5 player in the world in France, and Firouzja took his place. Now he's more uncompromising and is top 5 player living in France. Okay, bishop f5 is the main move, and white played very solid, not super aggressive. If you want to play super aggressive, you start pushing your kingside pawns. You put it in H, you play H4 and G4, and I've actually seen MVL do that. You can also play C4. But okay, Firouzja just takes his time, develops his pieces, plays solid. This is the Nigel Short variation. Short was the first super GM to play knight f3, bishop e2 against the advanced when his opponent played the Caro-Kann. And he had good results with it, and still does. Knight g6, that way the bishop on f8 can get out. Now, a lot of times, people are putting their knight on c8 and going to b6 because the knight on g6 blocks the bishop, and the knight on g6 can get harassed. So it looks sort of weird to play knight c8 to b6. So he just put his knight on g6. h4. Now, if white plays h5, the knight g6 doesn't make any sense. They just have to go back. So he played h5, stopping that. And as Bobby Fischer liked to say, let's see, should I say something crazy? No. He liked to say you have to give squares to get squares. So he gave away g4, but he got g5. And white wants to play aggressively because white has more space in the center, and it's not easy to find a good place for black's king. Knight to g5, and already there's a threat that's hard to stop. We're unleashing the queen and the bishop on the h-pawn. And the h-pawn's defended once, but it's attacked twice. So this is a perfect example of Alireza's style. Aggressive, gaining space, moving forward, making threats immediately, putting pressure on his opponent. His opponent played f6, never play f6. Now, if you don't play f6, I guess you lose your h-pawn. So he's like, I don't want to lose my h-pawn, so I'll attack the knight. Takes, and he has to take with the pawn. If he takes with the queen, he'll lose his h-pawn. His pawn on h5 is attacked. Okay, so now he's attacking the knight, and he figures if he goes knight back here, then my h-pawn's not attacked. So he's like, all right. And he goes knight h3. He says, no, your h-pawn is attacked. And by the way, I can attack it again with knight f4. So this is a very odd position because white's h4 pawn is also attacked. So it's very weird. You could take this h-pawn. I could take that h-pawn with check. Then black's king starts moving. He played king d7 right away because he figured the king side is not a safe place for his king. It's too open. The queen side is all blocked up. I'll just sit over there. And then bishop takes h5 won't pin my knight. I wonder if he said all that when he played it. Okay, knight f4, attacking the h-pawn again. And black doesn't want to trade knights because that develops white's bishop. But he does anyway because his h-pawn is attacked a lot. Queen e8, defending his h-pawn. And then c4. Now, a lot of people would probably think, I'll play knight d2, I'll castle with white, I'm developing my pieces and castling. But Firouzja says, there's a king on d7, so we have to go get him. Otherwise, the king will be safe later. We have to open up the center. And as you know, c4 is...
explosive.
That's right. Okay. So he takes on c4. Not something I would do. Bishop takes c4. Queen g6, threatening the pawn on g2. Queen b3, threatening the pawn on b7 with check, which seems really devastating. That seems like black might get checkmated. So he plays b5, attacking the bishop, and he's attacking the g-pawn. So black's a strong grandmaster. He's not going down like a punk. Okay, and white castled because Firouzja sees this defends his pawn, and if pawn takes the bishop, queen b7 check forks the king and rook. So the bishop can't really be taken now. So he decides, let's get my king safe, get my rook into the game, and defend my g-pawn. Rook g8, pretty obvious threat. Queen g2 mate. g3, solid. And still, the bishop is untouchable because of queen check and the rook is hanging. So he plays queen g4, and this is the first really important part of the game, I think. I think the other moves were very reasonable for both sides, but now Alireza went into a different gear. So here, queen g4 threatens the bishop on f4 because of this pin. And you could argue, although it looks dangerous to me, that you're also threatening the h-pawn. Not sure I would take that. And I guess if black could make two moves in a row, he could try to get his queen in his queen h3, bishop e4. That looks pretty dangerous too. So it looks like at the moment, white's king is not as safe as black's king. White can't really get at black's king, and black is already getting at white's king and threatening the bishop on f4. So if I was white, I would be thinking about how to save my bishop on f4. But if you retreat, then you lose the initiative. Black gets the initiative. So Alireza played rook e1. He ignored the bishop attack because he has his own attack. Bishop takes e6 check, which right now is defended. But if the queen moves off at g4, then it's less defended. So queen takes f4, bishop takes e6, and you're going to lose the rook. And when you lose the rook, then your queen's going to be attacked because the rook isn't pinning the pawn anymore. So rook e1's an excellent move because the rook is so much better on e1 than f1. And he played bishop b4, attacking the rook on e1. And if white takes the bishop with his queen, which seems perfectly natural, then we could take this bishop on f4 because the queen's not on e6 anymore. It's a lot of removing the attack, removing the defender. It's a lot of tactics. It's really crazy. And we can't take on e6 because black has three things defending e6. So he played bishop takes e6 anyway, and this was a super sharp move. Obviously, black has to take. And then he sacrifices the rook, although since he's winning the bishop on b4, he's only sacrificing an exchange. Always sacrifice the exchange. And by doing that, black's king in the long run is getting attacked, and white's king is perfectly safe. So he takes the rook, he takes the bishop, and this is just an exchange sacrifice for a pawn, But you can see white's king is very safe now, and black's king is never going to be safe. You can make a lot of moves in a row for black and try to put your king somewhere safe. I don't know where that would be. Okay, so knight a6 getting a piece out. Queen d2. Rook e8. They're just developing their pieces. And, if black's king was on maybe h8 or h7, then this would be okay. But, I mean, this is a terrible pawn structure for black. Really terrible. All 5 pawns are badly placed. The knight on a6 is terrible. The king on d7 is terrible. And you sacrifice in exchange for a pawn, which is nothing. In fact, I would argue a bishop and a pawn are sometimes better than a rook, especially in the middle game. Okay, he gets his knight into the game, and we have to bust open the center. Seizing the initiative is something that Alireza is really good at. You have to open up to the king. This reminds me of your favorite game, Steinitz von Bartholeben, Hastings 1895, where Steinitz played d5 and opened up the center and crushed von Bartholeben. And here we're opening up the center to black's king on d7. Takes with the knight, he wants to trade. Takes with the queen, he wants to trade queens. Then queen c2 threatens rook d1. So rook d1 is coming, queen h7 check is coming, and I don't know where black's king is supposed to go. And if you say, ooh, black's up in exchange, and start doing Donkey Kong, your rook is better than this bishop? I mean, that bishop's a monster. And this king is obviously ridiculously placed. Okay, king c8, trying to get to safety. Rook d1. Queen f3, looks good. Queen f5 check, also looks good. King there's legal, check. King a8. So now, if it was black's turn to move, which it's not, black would play rook e1 check and checkmate white. He's got 2 checkmates, one for each of you. So now, white is down a full exchange, and black is threatening mate. But obviously, white's pieces are all fantastic.
Wait, bro, just a second. That wouldn't rook e1 wouldn't be mate because king h2, right?
That's what I said. I said rook e1, king h2, and then I said there's 2 checkmates.
Oh, I didn't. Okay,
you missed that part of the yeah. I said there's 2 checkmates, one for each of you. Yeah. Okay, now Firouzja made the move trying to learn would make, except Firouzja knew why he made it. That's the difference. And when Firouzja played rook d1 and queen f5 check and rook d7 check, he had to see this move because black's threatening to checkmate. So white's not going to make a defensive move stopping checkmate because there isn't really a good defensive move. But white played a super aggressive move, which wins the game. Can anybody find it? It's the most aggressive move ever.
Is it rook takes a7?
That's right. Trying to learn, I knew would find it. Okay, then what would you do trying to learn? Where's the follow-up?
Get my bishop and queen in there, but I hadn't quite worked out with that.
Yeah, you could just win your opponent's queen. That's good. Bishop b8 check.
Yeah.
And then you could take the queen. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Now, material-wise, black is okay. However, as I said earlier, black's pawn structure is not good. And he's got 3 pawns attacked. And he's already down a pawn, and black doesn't have any passed pawns. So I don't want to lose the c pawn, because if he takes the c pawn, my b pawn's almost indefensible, my f pawn's attacked. So I'd like to keep this intact if I could. So he defended 2 of his pawns, and this move was recommended by Meatloaf for obvious reasons. Anybody? No? Nothing?
Please explain the joke. I do not understand.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, he defended 2 out of his 3 pawns. That ain't bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I could have made another joke like, he's no longer alive, but that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so queen takes h5. White has 2 extra passed pawns, or 2 extra pawns. The H pawn's passed. The black king is open. The black pawns are weak. And the rooks aren't coordinated like double in the 7th rank. So white's completely winning. And this is what I like about Firouzja. There's the technical way to win, which I like to do. Then there's the crazy computer way to win, which you guys like to do. And luckily, Firouzja can calculate far enough where he can do that. So Firouzja wins much more easily than I would have by playing crazy tactics. I would never play tactics here. I would slowly move my king up, move my H-pawn. Okay, but what Firouzja does is better. Pushes the H-pawn, pushes the G-pawn. Okay, now, after this, I'm threatening your queen, and if you play queen takes pawn, which is fine, then you lose your H-pawn. So here, Firouzja played the move only trying to learn would play. And even he's not playing it.
Queen takes e6.
Well, only you would play that. So
And that doesn't win, though. It's check.
No, there's a move that does the same thing, but it's better. You can give your queen away, but a much better way.
Now, are you thinking G takes F5?
I was thinking Arby's. That's what he did. He's got 2 passed pawns, 1 for each of you. Those pawns are pretty good. And after rook e6, you got to push the right pawn. Don't push the wrong pawn. Then you'll be upset later. If you play h7, rook takes g6 is check and black wins. But you play g7. Then when he checks, you just move away. And now white's pawns are unstoppable. And black stopped them because he's a strong grandmaster.
Resign.
He resigned. Yeah, he's like, well, this is the next move, so that's h7's the next move. So that was a really nice game for Firouzja because he played super aggressively. He's 13, 14 years old, and he's beating a strong German grandmaster. This guy's number 4 in Germany or something. So, yeah, back to the drawing board for him. That was an Aeroflot. Aeroflot is a tournament they have in Soviet Russia almost every year. I think they stopped one year because of COVID, and they get like 50 grandmasters or more. So that's a good tournament for a young player to play in and play lots of grandmasters. Go Firouzja. Okay, next is against Richárd Rapport, which is good because Rapport plays in the same style as Firouzja, wild and crazy. Okay, now this is 4 years later, so Firouzja's 2750. Those were a good 4 years. And I got to tell you a funny story because I like stories. When Fabiano Caruana was 11 or 12, I'll never know. I played him, and his FIDE rating was like 2210. Okay, and I won. I won a nice game, actually. And he was living in the U.S. at that point, and a month after that game, he moved to Europe and lived there for many years. And 6 years after he was 2210 FIDE, he was 2700 FIDE. And I was like, that's pretty good. And Firouzja did something similar. Like you're 11, 12, 13, you're like famous for being a prodigy. And then 5, 6 years later, you're number 5 in the world, number 4 in the world. Okay, so Firouzja's white against Rapport, another e4, Sicilian. And he plays the Rossalimo or the Moscow, nobody knows, especially me. Okay, knight f6 is very combative. I always play e6 in this position, and most GMs play g6. But e6 is also played a lot. In fact, if you were watching the tournament today, the Air Things Magnus Carlsen event, there was like 3 or 4 games today where we saw g6. Okay, knight f6 attacking the pawn, knight c3, knight d4. And generally, this idea doesn't work out for black because black's moving his knight 3 times and trading it off. So his other pieces are sort of mad at him, like, what about us? So after e5, the knight on c3 is stopping the black knight from going anywhere good. So he takes this. And you might think like, wow, black has the 2 bishops. Well, black moved this knight 3 times and it's gone. And black moved this knight twice. And all his other pieces are on the first rank. And he can't move either bishop. So this is another thing where if white does nothing and just goes la 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 la, okay, eventually black will develop and be better because black has 2 bishops. But black can't develop right now or castle, so white can play quickly, attacking black, and so forth. So first he castles, and after a6, anyone who's ever watched my stream will know what white played here.
C4?
C4 is explosive, yeah. And obviously, if you trade the knights, that's better for white. White has those 2 monster center pawns, and black has no development. So he moves the knight somewhere, wants to go to c6. Okay, and so even though we're on move, I don't know, 9, whatever move we're on, black's moved 1 piece, and everything else hasn't moved yet and can't move. The bishops can't move, king can't move, and white's castled. White has both of his knights out. White has more space in the center. Again, if white does nothing and just plays slow and boring, black will catch up. So white has to play fast. D4, that's about as fast as you can get. He wants to open up the center while black's king is still there. Queen takes, the most aggressive, defending the e-pawn, of course. Knight c2, forking the queen and the rook. Again, black's winning material, Firouzja's sacrificing, but black's pieces are all ridiculous. So black's up a full rook, but at what cost? The knight on a1 is going to go away, and then black has no development. Now, according to the internet, and I was watching this game live, in this position, Firouzja thought 40 minutes, like you guys always do. 4-0, and played bishop f4. Man, how much does he see in 40 minutes? I don't want to know. It's going to be a lot. So, obviously, if black wasn't a rook up, this is the most ridiculous position you've ever seen. White has everything, and black hasn't moved yet. And black is like, yeah, but I'm a rook up. How's that rook going to help you? Well, when you get checkmated, how's that going to be good? Okay, Rapport developed a piece finally. He took the knight. He's only down the exchange. Here comes more pieces. He wants to trade. And obviously, white has tremendous compensation for the exchange. I'm assuming, but I don't know. I'm assuming Firouzja just watches my stream all the time, and he's like, sack the exchange, sack the exchange, sack the exchange. Okay, f6, never play f6. Really, a move you don't want to play. In fact, I probably wouldn't even consider f6 because it's so weakening. It scares me. So this move I don't like at all. I mean, I'd probably play g6 and lose a different way. Man, rook g1 looks annoying. Man. Yeah, when the rook comes here, I don't know what black does. Cries, I guess. Okay, so f6. He retreats the knight, threatening the bishop on e6. He trades some more. And this is just awful, giving away the e6 square forever. And again, when you sacrifice the exchange, which is one of my favorite things to do, the argument for not sacrificing the exchange is rooks are better than bishops. Rooks are better than knights. So that's good for the other guy. This rook is better than something. That rook's not better than anything. So since we both have a dark squared bishop, we're comparing this knight to this rook. And my knight's going to e6. And my king is very safe, and black has all the pieces on the first rank. This really does look like a kind of Morphy versus somebody he beats up on. Sacrifices a little, and then runs them over. Okay, he attacks the d-pawn, and he says, okay, I'll move it. Opening up more. Queen to d7, he didn't want to lose his b-pawn. Now, I would play e5 if I was black, because I wouldn't even see the move queen d7. I would be so afraid here that I would forget about that. Okay, b4, the rook has to move. Rook e1. Very Morphy-like. All the pieces go into the attack, and these pieces don't play. This king is never safe. Actually reminds me of the last game, except Richard Rapport's like number 9 in the world. Matthias Blübaum, he's okay, but he's like, one of the top 10 players in Germany. Rapport's like number 10 in the world. So this is more impressive, beating somebody like this. King f7, he can escape. Knight d4, maybe he can't escape. e5 is a fork. Queen check. King here. And he sacks another piece because he hasn't sacrificed enough. That's his only mistake, is he didn't sacrifice enough. Yeah, he doesn't want to take the rook on c6 because he thinks his knight is better than the rook. I agree. So he gets at that black king some more, and he sacrifices the exchange to get an equal kind of position instead of taking the bishop and having problems with his king. So for example, if he takes this, I assume I do this. Now I'm threatening rook e6 check, and I'm also threatening rook g5 check. So I think you're just getting checkmated here. This doesn't look good. Let's see, rook takes. I'll do my own analysis. That's sure to be a good idea. Rook check. So, let's see, king here. I feel like I have mate after here. I don't see the mate, but I feel like I do.
And in that original position, isn't rook c1 mate?
Rook c1 mate. Oh yeah, I can't even take back. You're right. Yeah, that's why I'm not Firouzja. I'm trying to figure out what he would do here, but yeah, rook takes e5 was bad. Well, I have queen e4 check, which I don't like, and I have knight f3, which I sort of like. Yeah, I like knight f3. I like playing knight takes e5 check. This seems very annoying. And bishop takes doesn't stop it. I still play knight e5 and win your queen. Well, this is unstoppable. So that's not good. Wow. That's amazing that knight f3 retreating, always retreat is the winning move. I don't know what to do for black about this. Even if I don't lose my queen, it looks like I'm going to lose my king. So that's brilliant, taking on e5, and then if he takes, to play knight f3. So he took this and got to this equalish kind of position, except black's king is ridiculous. But, 3 against 3, 2 against 2, queen, rook, and minor piece each. And black has a threat. Bishop takes h2 check, winning the queen. Black actually has a threat now. Queen e4 check. King goes back. Always repeat. Good job, Firouzja. He does watch my stream. And then g3, that not only gives him luft, stopping the checkmate in one that I missed, but also it stops bishop takes h2 check. h6, I guess he wants to play king h7 to escape later. That doesn't seem to work for him. Rook to d1, instead of mating, he realizes the pin will win. He's going to move his knight and take that bishop on d6. Rook e8, knight f3, threatening the bishop. And now rook e6. So obviously black's in a lot of trouble here, but the way he finishes him off is nice. Check. Now in this position, if you were playing a blitz game, you would play knife f5 without thinking. Knife f5. It looks like it wins a piece. Does anybody see the problem with knight f5? It looks good. It attacks the bishop. Bishop can't move. Looks great. What's wrong with knight f5? Somebody was about to say it, but I couldn't hear.
Rook e1 check?
Well, then I take your rook.
Is it rook e5?
Rook e5. That forks my queen and knight. That looks like a draw. I take your bishop, you take my knight. Actually, if I take your bishop, then rook e1 check probably works. No, because my knight's defending my queen. Yeah. So he saw knight f5, rook e5 doesn't work. So he played queen d3 check. Amazing. Now, knight f5 works. After knight f5, you just lose your bishop. Rook e5 does nothing. So after queen d3 check, black resigned. As soon as black's position looks sort of normal, then he has to resign. He finally got all his pieces out. He got his king sort of safe and then resigned because the bishop is pinned. So that was an amazing victory over somebody that good. Usually when you beat somebody that good, they blunder in time trouble or you outplay them for 50 moves. But here he's just sacking everything and attacking. And Rapport can't defend. And Rapport's known as an attacking player, so it's not surprising he couldn't find the best defenses. But he likes that kind of game where it's not going to be a draw. Both players like that. And now I could do a commercial for why chess isn't dead. And everybody's like, oh, all the top games are draws. That's because the players want to draw. If you see Giri or Radjabov or Karyakin or Nakamura or Mamedyarov play a 10-move draw, or Wesley or Magnus, throw them in too. It's not because chess is a draw, it's because they want to draw. These guys do not want to draw. Neither one of these guys do. So they're going to play really exciting games. If it is a draw, it's because it's really well played and really exciting. It's not because they're playing the same Berlin line over and over and over again. Okay, and that really ruins chess for the spectators when half of the games are 5-minute draws. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be like this. And that's why people really like when they have Rapport and Firouzja in a tournament, that when they play each other, it's fireworks. Okay, don't sue me, Katy Perry. Okay, last but not least, and I was watching this game live too. This is the game Tari versus Firouzja. Tari is the second highest rated player in Norway. I think also from has an Iranian name, maybe born in Iran, maybe, but Iranian descent. And this was played 2 years ago in Norway. The reason Tari gets to play in Norway chess, which has the top 10 players in the world usually, is he's Norwegian. So this is like Tata Steel. They let some Dutch guys in. Like, you're Dutch, you can play because it's in the Netherlands. Here it's in Norway, so Tari can play. Sometimes Hammer can play. They didn't let Hammer play anymore because he kept hurting his opponents. And they were like, Hammer, don't hurt him. But he didn't listen. Okay, so Firouzja's black. And finally, at the end of our lecture, we see him playing his Caro-Kann. That's what Firouzja likes to play. And white played this boring variation because, and this is one of the reasons Tari isn't top 10, top 20 in the world. Tari is afraid when he's paired up. He's shaking. I don't know if he's shaking, but Tari wants to draw when he's paired up. And when he's paired down, he wants to win. What does he mean? So when Tari's playing a higher rated player, he keeps the game simple. And Firouzja doesn't like simple, so he has to mix it up in this Caro-Kann. So he plays bishop g4, which is a little odd. And then queen c7, also a little odd. And then back to d7, which is also odd. Because normally you want to trade off this bishop for this bishop, so you do something like this. But he decided this diagonal was annoying. White could play knight e5 and bishop e5 check. So he's like, all right, we'll stop that. Okay, so now it looks really boring. It looks like, how could this game get exciting? He castles. He says, why don't you take my knight, double my pawns. I'll have the open G file, and I'll have a big center. And Tari says, no, I don't play like that. I play boring. Okay, then knight h5. This is a typical idea in the London system where you're trying to get rid of that bishop on f4. You play knight h5, bishop d6, etc. He's just doing it with the bishop on g5 because this square's nice and juicy on f4. Queen d1, the queen's not really doing anything on b3. Now, if my opponent plays knight h5, my opponent, and they're trying to attack me on the king side, which you'll see, you have to counterattack in the center. So I think white should seriously consider playing c4 here and trying to distract black from his attack. f6, never play f6. Knight f4. And now, after bishop f1, which you should always play, you can see white's playing very passively. Bishop back to e3, queen back to d1, bishop back to f1. But if white makes 3 or 4 moves in a row, he'll be fine. So Firouzja's like, this is the time I have to checkmate him. He's playing too passively. g5, recommended by Trying to Learn. Trying to Learn is playing g5 whether it's good or not. Okay, because he wants to crush his opponent. Good idea. Okay, so now you have to play c4. When the guy's mating you on the king side, you open the center up and distract him and get counterplay. King h8, he wants to play rook g8 and push that g pawn and attack with all those pieces. Rook c1, opposite the queen, good. Rook g8, everybody's doing it right. He takes that, which I don't like. I think that's a big mistake. Now, obviously, if I had the white pieces, I would be very scared of that knight on f4. But since I'm the commentator and this game's over, I can criticize everything. But if I was playing white, I would be very sad here because black just has a free attack. He didn't sacrifice anything. And here comes g4. Here comes both rooks. And if I play c5, which looks good, problem is that blocks my play in the center. Then the center is closed, and black can just attack on the king side. Okay, he plays b4. He's trying. Trying is the first step to failure. Queen d6. He's like, play c5 and block the center up. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. And then finally he does it. Now the center's closed. White's going to play on the queen side. Black's going to play on the king side. I don't see anything for white on the queen side. He pushes his pawns and he gets mated. Okay, then g3. Obviously, Tari's not my student. Don't move pawns in front of your king. And Tari thought, bishop takes g3, that's unsound. Bishop takes d2, great. And Firouzja played another move. He didn't move his bishop away. This is, I think, key to understanding Firouzja. When you attack Firouzja's aggressive pieces, he often doesn't retreat them. He does something more aggressive. What's an aggressive move black can play that's a counterattack that doesn't move the bishop?
g4?
g4, correct. And once you've played g3, which white did, g3 is pretty soft. If I get a rook on g4, bishop on f4, queen on c7, I sacrifice and checkmate you. I have another rook coming to g8 too. So he takes it. Black's other rook is coming to g8. I wouldn't want to be white here because white's queenside play has stalled, and here comes black attacking. Bishop h3 attacking the rook. And he's like, yay, the rook will move away, then I'll take the pawn on e6. I'm a genius. And Firouzja said, no talking. Rook g7, and he plays king h1. He realizes bishop takes g3 is a very serious threat. You don't have time for bishop takes e6. Bishop takes g3 crushes you. Then the queen's coming in. So he's like, all right, king h1. I'll play rook g1 and defend my g-pawn. I'll get out of this pin. Now I'm threatening the bishop on f4. And he's threatening the pawn on e6. e5. This is a brilliant move because it threatens to take the bishop on h3. And if white trades bishops, then my queen can come to h3. So white doesn't have time to take that bishop on f4. And if white does nothing, here comes e4. So this is attacked. e4 is coming. And this doesn't look like white's doing anything on the queen side that's going to make a queen or win material. He takes. He wants to play queen h3 check. Knight h2. He's like, don't play queen h3 check. I'm going to put my queen over here. It's going to be a great defense. Queen h3. You can't take the bishop because queen g2 would be mate. That bishop's been there for a while. Just can't take it. Rook g1. Now he can take the bishop because he defended the g2 square. But I got another rook. Got 2 rooks, 1 for each of you. Now, if I saw this position and I saw the big attack that black had and the big center that black had, I would wonder how much material he sacrificed. He sacrificed nothing. So he has black against a 2630 FIDE, and he's just rolling over him. He's just pushing him down. And that's what we want to see. The way some people win, Karpov, Magnus, Geary, other people, a lot of people are saying, slow, methodical, that's okay. But when you can just totally destroy your opponent and they're top 10, top 20, top 30 in the world, that's pretty impressive, especially with black. Queen e2, e4. You can't take that bishop because then I play rook g2, and you're not going to like that. You might like it. Here's a funny variation, by the way. You don't want to get mated. If you stop mate, then you get mated this way. It's funny unless you have white, then it's less funny. Okay, so he doesn't take it. He plays rook c3. He's really defending his g-pawn. You got to give him credit. Really defending it. Okay, knight f5. You can't take the bishop because your rook is hanging with checkmate. Rook takes rook mate. Not only am I attacking g3, it looks like I'm ready for a sacrifice, but knight takes d4 is winning. Simple win. Just take this pawn. So he plays knight takes e4, sacking a piece because he doesn't know what to do. So he's trying to get rid of the pressure. And he's like, okay, I sacked a piece. I got rid of your center, and your bishop's hanging, and your attack is gone, and I can start pushing my queenside pawns. I wonder if he said all that. Bishop takes g3, and this is what I like about Firouzja. If I'm up a piece, I figure I'm going to win, so I play what's the simplest, like bishop b8, bishop c7, and I'm up a piece. And Firouzja's like, this is the best move, so I'm going to play that. Threatening queen takes knight mate. Rook g2 stopping mate. Well, the problem is, if you take with the pawn, let's say, and I take this, and you take somehow, black's up material here. If I was white here, I want to be up a lot because I'm getting mated. I wouldn't want to be down material. So he plays rook g2, trying to defend. And this is funny. About 5 moves ago, white's rooks were here and here, if you remember that long ago. And now, white has no rooks on the back rank. And one of the things I teach my students, when you move pieces, they're not where they were. Maybe they were doing something there, and maybe they're not doing it now. And super GMs like Firouzja notice stuff like that. He's like, oh, the back rank's undefended. Oh, yeah. All right, let's come in that way. Let's play rook e1 check. If the queen moves to a random square, rook e1 check, rook g1, queen takes knight checkmate. If the queen doesn't move, I take your queen. So he plays queen b1, stopping rook e1. And Firouzja's like, nope, I got another rook. I'm going to play rook e1. What's funny about this position, black is attacking, and black's up a piece. So this game, he made Tari look sort of silly, like totally outclassed. But, I mean, Tari is second best player in Norway. He's 2630 FIDE. He's beaten a lot of 2700s. But, man, Firouzja's hard to play against. And a friend of mine, Wesley Berger, who's been on my stream before, he's in his 80s now. I think he's exactly 80. He said the reason Fischer was so good compared to, let's say, Karpov, for example, he said when you played Fischer, you were like, ugh. Okay, if you're white against Karpov and you're one of the top 20 players in the world, Karpov might be satisfied with the draw. It's like, I'm black against the 2700, I'll draw. Then when I'm white, I'll win. That's what a lot of the top GMs do nowadays. When you played Fischer and you had the white pieces, he wasn't satisfied with the draw. So you were like, oh, I got to get tortured for 1,000 moves. And that's what it's like playing Firouzja. Firouzja doesn't want to draw with black. Firouzja wants to attack you with all of his pieces. And then if you misplay it, you lose and you don't know why. Like, I look like I played pretty good, but you can see white's counterplay with c4, b4, c5, b5 was just a waste of time. And black played g5, g4, doubled rooks on the e file. And here he resigned, because if you want to stop rook here, you got to play rook c1, but that unpins the bishop. So then the bishop just moves anywhere and blacks up a piece. There's probably quicker wins, and probably Firouzja would have played them. But yeah, I think after here, if you don't want to just win like a boring way, you could take and go here. If you play king g1, either rook to g7. If you play here, every move wins, but I sort of like this. I sort of like that. Yeah. What's amazing is Firouzja didn't sacrifice anything that game. He just won material because his attack was so brutal, and white actually sacrificed a piece to stop the attack. An amazing game from Firouzja, and he has a lot of great games, not just the ones I showed you today, but there's a lot of Firouzja wins where he's just running over his opponent. And it's tough to play somebody like that who's always playing aggressively with white and black. That's why he's so popular. And as you all know, maybe, he's really good at blitz and bullet on the internet. So he's so good at playing online, he's good at playing slow chess, and he's only 18 years old. Most people think he will become the world champion at some point. Next year, maybe. In 3 or 4 years, probably. In the next 7 years, almost definitely. I mean, at 18 years old, he's already 2,800 FIDE, and he has the style to beat other players around his rating with white and black. A very aggressive style, very well calculating style, and solid opening repertoire. Go Firouzja. Ever played him? I don't think so. I hope not. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this lecture on Firouzja. We want to once again thank our sponsor, Zane. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can always pause the video, watch it again. If you were watching live, thanks for your support. And I hope you enjoyed this. It'll be on our channel in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I'll see you guys next time. Any questions before I go?
Thanks, Ben.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks to our sponsor.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thanks to the viewers. See you guys next time.